Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to give you guys another Diablo 4 video in the hardcore journey for the Minionmancer, more specifically the Golemancer. And for the first time in the series, we are actually at a point where we are stacking golem damage in meaningful ways, and we are actually kind of playing a Golemancer. Now, this was a really funny point on the character where the very end of the previous stream, I actually got some really big pieces of gear, but I completely ran out of gold in order to apply the aspects required for them. So I'm actually doing Helltide on World Tier 4 at level 71, so the mobs are at least 4 levels higher than me. It's not super hard, but I did use a cheat death potion just to play it safe. Generally, you want to do the bulk of your Helltide on World Tier 3 because you're mostly just going for those Forgotten Souls. But even though Helltide is much less experience than doing Nightmare Dungeons, especially on World Tier 4, it is actually better for like a Gear 4 time invested. And the first thing you want to do, especially on Hardcore when you get to World Tier 4, is you want to get that first set of pretty good gear. That first set of near item level 800-ish weapon and similar on the rest of your slots. And it starts to get really crazy from there. That first pretty good set, you're just looking for pieces where you don't feel bad using some of the more powerful aspects that you have saved. The character that you're looking right now is using an item level 799 two-handed scythe, and because it was very well rolled, I had a very good vulnerable damage roll, an int roll, and 2 damage-based stats. I think it was stun damage and crowd control damage, some very easy to activate modifiers for my minions. Now my minions are only going to get 30% of those, except for the vuln damage, they get full multiplier. But still, it's really hard to scale minion damage. The best way to scale minion damage is attack speed, and that's the big one. I actually used my perfectly rolled attack speed aspect. I believe it's 42% total, 3 stacks of attack speed, and if you put it on a two-hander, it's 84 minion attack speed multiplier, and it actually works. It has been tested. It is by far the best aspect for this exact build. For other builds, especially if you use like Mendel, there's other things. But for the full Minionmancer, for the Golemancer, that's the one that you want. In general, it's really hard to scale attack speed because even if you get something like minion attack speed, your minions actually only get 30% of that. I talk about how there's bugs in the scaling system, and I believe that's one of them. And I believe that minions don't actually get 30% of your attack speed like the in-game tooltip says they do. It's been calculated that they get basically nothing. So I'm guessing, and I am guessing, I'm guessing that 30% of your attack speed becomes minion attack speed, and the bug is that minions only get 30% of minion attack speed. However, the aspect they get in full, the legendary notable, like the keystone on your passive tree, the last one, Kalan's Edict, they get that one in full, and they get any kind of minion-specific bonuses across the board, minion damage as well, but minion attack speed more importantly as well, in full. So they're going to get 30% of minion attack speed, but I'm going to get some of those nodes on the passive tree, morphing us into a real bona fide Golemancer. They get full golem attack speed, baby. All right, so we're going to go for some of those nodes. So let's fast forward here just a little bit into the stream. I got the character online. I got the gold I actually needed to put the aspects back on my gear, and I'm back doing level-appropriate Nightmare Dungeons. This is kind of the end game cycle for the current version of Diablo 4, but it's amazing that I'm actually here, that I'm finally alive to see it, and to have the build come together, and have learned a lot of lessons throughout that time. So I am using 6 warriors and 6 mages and a golem. So it's 13 minions and me, 14 targets, a lot of targets for the mobs to hit. Mobs generally completely ignore your minions, but if minions are blocking their path, so the minions, they don't interact with your collision, so you can walk through your minions, but the enemy mobs cannot do that. The enemy mobs do actually collide with your minions. So, people talk about it, well, do you really need 2 extra skeleton warriors? The thing is, if you don't have like a lot of minions, you might as well not have any when it comes to like your mobs aggroing them. You want to have a lot just so they can block the path. And of course, they'll attack your golem when you use the golem activator with the taunt. So we have 4 base warriors, and we have a +2 with the aspect, and we have 3 base mages, and we have a +3 with the aspect. The aspects that increase the count of the minions are utility aspects, which means they can go on your boots, on your chest, and chest can also have defensive, on your helm, and helms can also have defensive, or on your gloves, and your gloves can have offensive as well, or on your amulet, and your amulet can have offensive, defensive, or utility. But if we put it in the amulet, we get an extra minion because amulets have a 50% bonus. So that's how we have 6 mages. Now, some people prefer to put other aspects there, but in my experience, I would rather have the extra minion. And so what does the extra minion do for me? Well, we're scaling attack speed big time. So the extra minion is going to be, well, more attacks. Okay, the extra minion is going to be another target for the mobs to hit, another target to block their path, so they have to hit. The extra minion is not only going to be that extra difference in damage, but it's going to be that extra difference in crowd control. It's 20% more chill and freeze effect, because we're going from 5 mages to 6. And it's also going to be more decrepify procs. The skeleton mages attack a lot. So we're utilizing it, yes, for the damage, but also for the massive amount of utility. Hey, look, it's Butcher. Butcher likes to completely ignore your minions, and he's constantly knocking them back. The full Minionmancer has a really hard time with the Butcher, but you really get to see the highlight of the character. With Bone Storm up, this character does not die against same level content, and honestly, it's probably one of the very best builds to tackle hardcore against same level content. While there might be builds that can clear the game faster, while there might be builds that do more damage, run faster, there's probably not a lot more builds that are more defensive. The reason I say that is because you have the literal maximum amount of minions, and you have the literal maximum amount of attack speed. So you're getting so many Decrepify procs that you should be able to nearly permanently be in Blood Mist. So people talk about like the Infinimist build as one of the tankiest builds in the game. This build actually has all the defenses of that build and minions, okay? And the minions are not trivial. In fact, they are much more than trivial. They are doing a lot of your damage, but they're also doing a lot of the crowd control. So when you're in the game, if you just take your hands off your keyboard for nearly every character except maybe like a Thorns Barb, maybe, like if your shouts are down, you have a bad time, you're probably going to die. Okay, the game doesn't reward you very well for standing still. In fact, builds that stand still too much are just written off as terrible builds. Now, the reason that I say this is one of the very best builds for hardcore is because if you take your hands off your keyboard at any point, you're probably going to be fine. And you're probably going to be fine because the minions are going to be tanking for you. They're going to be blocking the path. If you have your Bone Storm up, you literally like can't die. Okay, your minions are not only going to kill stuff, but they're crowd controlling stuff all the time. In many cases on stream, I actually took my hands off my keyboard in fairly dangerous situations just to prove it to the viewers. And yeah, my character was totally fine. Maybe I took like a few hits here and there, but on one hand, the mobs were quickly getting crowd controlled by my skeleton mages. They were getting killed pretty quickly because it's a passive damage build with the minions. And most importantly, we're using a two-handed scythe, so we have a massive amount of life on kill. The life on kill on a scythe is very significant. While some minion mancers have chosen the two-handed sword approach, that's probably the best choice if you're playing more of like a hybrid build, but we're not playing a hybrid build. We are using a build where the minions are doing like all the damage. Okay, and in this type of build, it's better to use a scythe. It's better to use a scythe because minions have their own attack speed, and a scythe has an attack speed of 0.9, while a sword has an attack speed of 1. While a sword has crit damage as its baseline, you might think that compensates. Well, it doesn't really, because your minions only get 30% of your crit damage, and I have theorized and tried, and as much crit as you might be scaling your minions, it's still pretty bad at the end of the day. So it's really not as effective as you might think. However, the difference in attack speed is significant because minions have their own attack speed and the weapons are balanced around their DPS, not their attack speed, meaning that a weapon that is 0.9 instead of 1 will have roughly 11% more actual damage per hit. And the damage per hit is the only thing your minions are going to use from your weapon. So two-handed scythes do the most damage, but they have like tons and tons of life on kill, so much so that I'm actually socketing skulls in my weapon for even more life on kill, and your minions get all of your defensive stats, including life on kill. If you watch the stream, if you watch the whole journey, and you can if you want, Salt is running our second channel, a casual Kripp. You can watch all the run, or you can watch it on Twitch if you want. You'll see that through the entire lifespan of this character, my minions just like never ever die. The reason that is, well, we have a pretty tanky character. But the real big part of that is, after every pack of mobs that we kill, my minions are getting healed full because they're inheriting my life on kill. And that is absolutely huge. And you're watching these, and these are some pretty tricky dungeons. This one in particular, I think this is called Lost Archives. It's almost entirely ranged monsters. But with the golem, he pulls the mobs to him. And we use corpse tendrils from the first available corpse. And we get them all in the same spot. And that's when all of our AoE damage is coming through. You know where that's coming from? The golem. That's right. This is where the Golemancer angle comes in. We have almost the entire board for the golem. We go with the golem board and actually get the golem nodes because they're actually pretty good. You can get armor for you. You can get attack speed and damage for the golem. And because the golem is all of our AoE damage, we're using the bone golem because we're scaling minion attack speed. And the bone golem's base attack is a cleave. So that is all of our AoE damage. And you know what? If you're watching this, if you've seen the stream, you can see that the clear speed is pretty good. The Golemancer build is a legit build. You can actually make a character and rely on just the Bone Golem's basic attack for your area of effect clearing if you have all the other pieces together. So it has been going pretty well. It has been smooth sailing since I got that like first set of gear in World Tier 4. I really had pretty much no hiccups after getting out of like the middle of World Tier 3, especially with that death rip in pieces. But it's been going pretty well. Another angle that I want to mention is that once you get to this stage where you are clearing content really fast, and it's a pretty important angle in hardcore. So the cheat death potion in hardcore, it's a unique mechanic to hardcore. It requires some fairly rare ingredients, and you're not going to have too many of them when you're like doing some of the quests and stuff to do your renown grind. And you're not going to have too many of them when you're doing like Helltide. You're not going to have too many of them when you're doing like mixed content and whatever. But they do drop off of elite monsters. And there are a lot of elite monsters in the dungeon. And there are more elite monsters in a group when one elite monster spawns on World Tier 4. So if you are in a case where you're doing World Tier 4 dungeons through the Nightmare Sigil system or not, and you're actually power clearing them super quick, you're going to reach a spot. I didn't actually realize this was the case, but it is the case. You're gonna reach a point in the game where just by playing the game, you are going to get more materials for cheat death potions in the amount of time that 1 runs out, which means that from this point onwards, we are always going to be playing with a cheat death potion on our character. I watched some of the streams, I watched some of the hardcore players, and I noticed that a lot of time they had cheat death potions on. I thought they were like painstakingly farming the mats and all that. No. I mean, okay, some people were actually farming the mats. But it turns out that if you just have a character that is effective enough and quick enough at power clearing dungeons, you never need to farm cheat death potions, and you will always have it on your character. And if you must know, no, the cheat death potion has never procced on this character, but it has been going really well, and that is kind of like a benchmark I think that you want for the future. If you're designing a build, especially for hardcore play, in order to use the cheat death potion, it needs to have this capability where you can power clear dungeons safely but also quickly enough. There is a DPS angle to hardcore, because if I wasn't able to 100% sustain those potions, my character would definitely be less tanky unless I was farming the mats, which again, you don't really want to do. So a lot has been learned on this run. The character is fantastic. Every single level, we're getting more of the golem board, and I believe after the golem board is the corpse board, which has the highest amount of willpower, and that's when we slot the golem glyph. That's right, we are golem glyphing this build. So that's when things will start getting really crazy. I think that starts happening in the low 80s or just a little bit away from there. And in the next video, I'll show you guys kind of where I ended with the character and give you guys a brief build guide. So, it might not be a build that you can copy and use through the seasons, because hopefully they'll have, significant changes as the game ages. But I think it is a build that really does a good job of crushing the same level content in the game, and does a good job of pushing numbers with our current understandings of minion scalings. In that regards, it is very much optimized, and I know some of you guys like the Kripp builds. The tanky, comfy, fast builds to clear the game are always the ones that I play. Thank you for joining us on another episode, and we'll see you in the final one tomorrow.